What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube. Today's show presented by our friends at Comcast and Xfinity. Sunday, I watched an epic French Open final. Alcaraz versus Sinner. An encouraging Tigers-Cubs game. Spain-Portugal in the Nations League final. And then NBA Finals Game 2, all on Xfinity. Right? I didn't need anything else. When you talk about sports packages and offerings, Xfinity is the best way to get it all in one spot. Visit Xfinity.com to choose the plan that is right for you. And when you bundle with home internet, the deals get even better. Plus, there are offers from Xfinity Mobile, Verizon coverage for a lot less cost. Visit Xfinity.com. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Go out there, play hard, stick your cleats so far up their asses that they've got to use the cleats to brush their teeth with.
Really good.
Hey, man.
How you doing?
What's been going on? Just a FYI, I had some dental work done today. Shout out Dr. J-Mo. So if it appears that I'm having a stroke, I'm not. It's just my left side of my face feels kind of numb still. And when I was at Dr. J-Mo's office, he listens to the podcast. He likes the podcast. But he also, so he shows up, and, you kind of have the dental hygienist that does the work first. And then Dr. J-Mo comes in, and he has his phone out. I'm like, what? Is he going to want like a bet or something? Does he want? I know he listens to the podcast. So he plays me this video of his buddy brushing his teeth, listening to the podcast, talking about Dr. J-Mo and how about, my terrible yuck mouth has paid off his BMW. And he goes, everybody thinks I have a BMW, but I'm not that rich. So if you could tell everybody I don't have a BMW, I drive an older F-150. So shout out Dr. J-Mo for doing great work and driving an F-150. He's trying to be a normal person. Yeah. But we know dentists, they make a ton of money.
I was going to say, he has the money for a BMW if he'd want it.
Really does.
Yeah.
I would think so. He's got his name on a building. Like, I feel if you have your name on a building, that automatically leads to a BMW.
And I don't want to go to a dentist who doesn't have the money for a BMW because that means they're not doing good work.
Well, what are you saying about Dr. J-Mo? He doesn't have a BMW. I mean, he and his staff are some of the best out there. I wish that I could convince him to become a sponsor. I just don't know what this podcast would do for him, but
especially now.
No. I'm telling you, I tell everybody to go to Dr. J. He's one of the best dentists. I mean, he's got the hands of God. It's just they make it so comfortable. There's no anxiety, and the nitrous gas is so pure. Always get the nitrous gas. It's up to $110 though, so I make sure I get my fill of it. But man, you got to always go nitrous gas. But shout out Dr. J-Mo.
I think you did. The live read is right there. The hands of God. I mean, that's it,
dude.
Right there,
I tried. Believe me, I've tried to slip it in there. Of how to do that. By the way, we have some sponsors on the show, Dr. J-Mo. If you'd like, I know that you like hearing your name on the show, and we'd say nothing but glowing things. And he does like the podcast, but
excellent.
Well, anyway, shout out to being a real dentist and not driving a BMW, Dr. J-Mo.
Well, if you start to look like you're having a stroke, if you have a real stroke, I'm not going to know it, and you're just going to
let me go.
Yeah, I'll let you.
I can't tell you at the beginning of the show to ignore a stroke. So if it happens, it happens.
Okay,
anything's a possibility.
Yeah,
but how do you dare not mention the Canadian Open 4 playoff holes yesterday? I mean, what a day of sports yesterday!
Incredible.
My God,
incredible. No, it was one of the best.
That's my hot take. That's my first hot take.
Well, no, but it was one
unbelievable sports weekend.
No, we talk about the Xfinity most entertaining thing I saw all weekend. And obviously the French Open match was an incredible way of starting Sunday. You get 5 hours. I was on the treadmill,
of course,
as I am, and I thought
lube everywhere.
Lube. Oh, I almost fell because of the lube yesterday. There's some lube left over on one section of the wood floor that I didn't know about. And it seeps in. You don't see the lube on the floor.
Wait, this is a real thing?
Oh, this is real.
It's still lubes?
I think I know how it might have injured my hip right now. Well, no, this is leftover lube from
your treadmill?
From a previous time I moved a different treadmill. Or something happened.
So you haven't cleaned up the lube from the last treadmill. What are you, P. Diddy?
Hold on.
So much lube everywhere.
You cannot see it. Like, I don't know if it's from the treadmill. All I know is our wood floors are slicker than usual, but you can't see lube anywhere. It's just like some sort of, I don't know what's happened. And I was moving this one area.
Shooting ropes on the floor, forgetting about them?
It's going a little too quickly, and my leg just almost went out from under me. But
that would have been a wild injury to hear you explain it.
Feel it on
oh
the
my
hip.
God,
Yeah,
how that would have grown. Like, I was on there for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about you during the French Open, though, because, like, I know I bust balls, but, like, not everybody has a great wife like I do, like Treese. Like, she doesn't care if I sit there and watch sports while she does yard work because she knows I'll eventually get out there. But when it's by the way, what could you, to play tennis for 5.5 hours, and those guys don't even look like they're breaking a sweat. I know they take breaks and they wipe down and all that shit. But to do anything for that extended amount of time. Dude.
They didn't leave the court for a bathroom break or anything. It was amazing because I thought I will walk on the treadmill during this match. And after a while, I had to get off. I felt bad because it was like these guys. I mean, I did make a trip in one of the sets to Groovy Donuts in the middle, which was well worth it. But for the most part, I'm like, I'll walk. But nobody can go 5. I mean, 5 hours is like 20 miles on the. Well, not quite.
I love
close.
that you try to relate to the professional athletes, these stellar 1% athletes, and you try to make it and equate it to yourself of like, I'm going to try to hang in with these guys. I'm going to put it on 3.7. I'm going to see how long I can last.
3.8. Thank you.
3.8. 3.8 with an incline of 3.0. But that's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, but could you walk on a treadmill for 5 hours? I mean, I just get bored. I'm thinking about the people that are actually sitting there, like the Spike Lee. Like, I would need, can you walk out of the stadium? Can you go, like,
yeah.
I would have to do something. I'm just saying that's way too long to be at any place for any amount of time, I think. Even if it's for a great, unbelievable, once-in-a-lifetime match.
Being there, I wouldn't have minded it. I mean, watching it, I didn't mind it. It was not too long for me.
You say that after the fact, but I mean, like, when you're in it, but like.
Well, because here's the thing. When you're watching a match like that, you don't know it's going to go 5 hours. There's so much drama within it. Like at one point, you've got Alcaraz down 2 sets. And another,
I was ready to flip the Tigers game over.
Right,
he's right there.
He's down 3 points or 3 match points on his own serve at another point. So you don't realize. So it's just this building crescendo. It's like going to a movie and not knowing the length or the plot could still unfold. It was incredible.
See, I don't like that. I don't like not knowing.
It was the best. It was the best tennis match I've seen in a long, long time. And maybe
since Connors '91.
I mean,
classic.
There have been others I've enjoyed. Even within this tournament, the Alcaraz Shelton match was tremendous. But
Coco.
It was pretty sweet.
Coco was fun, too. Now, did you at all think of going 2009 Graham with Skinner when he was pretty much dominating? It looks like it was over for Alcaraz.
No, because I've just learned from Alcaraz that he's so good with his back against the wall. And he's just not somebody to underestimate.
That was an epic back against the wall.
It was.
And I almost got in at plus 195, but I just thought, like, what am I going to do?
By the way, I think I've done something to this mic here where you got these little clips. No, it tightened. I worried I stripped the screw there for a second.
So you're going to constantly touch it for the next 2 hours.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Like you on a treadmill.
Yeah,
lube everywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to be great. I felt bad for one of my. I would call this more of a baked take, but my thought was like if I was at the Tigers game, I would be annoyed. Like these sort of matches don't happen that often, and I want to watch the Tigers game. Or even like I missed the first 5 innings of the Tigers game.
Well, Wolf Blitzer, if you pull out the second monitor,
I know you can do that. What I'm saying is, but if I was at the game, just delay the game for now. We don't get those sort of sporting events that often. Delay the game. Let's have a thing we do in this world where we understand something epic is happening. Delay the game, put it on the big screen at Comerica. You get the best of both worlds. Nobody needed the Tigers for the first hour of the Tigers game. What we needed was the end of Alcaraz Center. So that was my fake take on that.
For those of you out there with one TV and just like to focus.
But I'm just saying if you're at the stadium, I'd be annoyed too. I'd want to see that match.
It's true. But you have your phone.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, should we dig into these takes?
Pound the bushes.
You want me to just start reading them now? Or what do you want to do?
No, you want to go for ours is what we usually do.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, man.
All right. Well, so Friday night, 9:30 in true news drop form, and this often happens with court cases, the House versus the NCAA settlement was approved by Judge Wilkin, like 9:30 p.m. on Friday. And
news dump.
Yeah, except this sort of stuff sort of happens. The judge isn't thinking about a news dump. It's just weird timing on these sort of things. And I was off last week. I was not, I was trying to stay strong to that.
I was out of pocket.
Something like that.
Do we know what out of pocket means finally, or?
Out of pocket.
I know that you journalists like to say that. Like
when I say out of pocket, it means I'm probably not going to be on social media as much. That's what I'm trying to say.
The Graham Couch
just
account.
reachable's out of pocket.
Who's running the Couch and the Rube account?
Correct. Yeah, and the other account.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so I was out of pocket.
So when you say you're gone,
because I was in Canada for a while and I was watching shows during the middle of the day, and you don't have your phone on, these sort of things. So
right.
Anyway, but so the House NCAA settlement is approved, which with it comes revenue sharing, about $20.8 million a year for each school that's opted in, including places like Michigan State, and it comes with all sorts of now what's. And I want to talk about this in terms of MSU, because I think that's what most people care about, and obviously what's going to happen to other schools in the Big Ten and whatnot. But I think what's really interesting here is, the revenue sharing is there, but we knew that was going to be there. They were going to do revenue sharing this year, whether it was approved or not. Like, they had planned for revenue sharing. That's what's going to be there. You now have to build a budget. You now have to build your athletic department and your program to incorporate more than $20 million a year that goes directly to athletes. That's just part of it. And I don't think that's going to be a problem for MSU. I don't, because you'll just adjust to the point that you need to. But that's what is, and that's fine, and that will level the playing field to some degree. It's the rest of it that I think gets interesting for everybody, including places like MSU. Because, with this ruling, it is now, if you have a deal of more than $600, an NIL deal, it's supposed to be approved by a clearinghouse, right? An NCAA clearinghouse that says that this is a legitimate NIL deal and not pay for play. There is no way, to me, that this is going to, A, not be challenged in the courts, but B, also, like, Ohio State and Alabama are just not going to let themselves play on an even playing field with everybody else. And you read some of the numbers out there that some schools are bracing for $40 to $50 million a year in football compensation to athletes. Like, that's what it's going to cost. I don't know if it gets that high. Maybe it will. I mean, that seems really hard to sustain.
It's a lot of bushes to pound.
It is a lot. But if you're Michigan State, what you have to be now, because you are, as J Batt, the new athletic director, said, they think they should be a top 10 athletic department. I think you definitely have a chance, if you do things right, to be in the top dozen schools in the Big Ten and SEC, right, in terms of resources and branding and all that stuff. You got to be nimble, and you have to be creative, and you have to be on the front foot. You can't assume you know where things are headed. Like, that's one of the mistakes MSU made with early NIL deals, thinking it was going to cost $3 or $4 million when it was going to cost at least 3-4 times that even early on. And you've got to be willing to push boundaries. You really do, because who knows what's actually going to be. You're better off having to adjust by pulling back than by ramping up quickly and being left behind. And I think you have to think in those terms, and you have to build a department and a mechanism that in terms of how much revenue you can easily have available to you and places you can go for revenue. You have to. I mean, I'm very curious to sit down with J Batt. I'm very curious to hear more from him about how they get there and what this looks like and how you adapt to the idea of playing by the rules when you're doing real NIL out there beyond the revenue sharing, when a lot of schools are saying, screw that, we're not doing that stuff. Like, what this is all going to look like, and how you become one of the schools that says screw that, because the only way to win is to not play by there. No, you can't do what they're saying is going to be the system. This true NIL deals approved by the clearinghouse. That's not going to do it. Now, the floor may be raised to certain degrees, and you're going to have a certain amount of money. You're going to have $15 million for your football program just through revenue sharing alone, and you can make decisions through that make you competitive. So your floor should be raised, and so there are lots of opportunities there, and I think that's a good thing. But the other stuff, how do you compete? What are you doing, and what are you willing to do, and how do you create? Private equity is something that's already starting to come into play with certain places. I'm very curious to see, but it's all the other stuff. Getting to $20 million a year for rev sharing, I think MSU can do. You have to trim, you have to change the dynamics of your department, what your priorities are. You may drop a sport or two, but they'll get there. That's not an issue. The issue is what more can you be, and how can you be on the front foot, and how can you push the envelope. These are the areas where I think they would have been pretty good under Mark Hollis. Let's see what they can be under J Batt. And this is the area where I don't think they were as good under Alan Haller. is the willingness to push the envelope. And I'm not saying not play by the rule. You're not blatantly, but if nobody else is playing by the rules who's winning at the highest level in football, you have to play by whatever rules Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia are setting if you want to compete with those teams and be in the playoff. And so that's what I'm watching right now is how does MSU adapt to this beyond just the rev share.
So when you say that it's going to go to the courts, like who's taking this to the courts? Like who is paying for the lawyers?
Athletes will sue is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do they get together collectively?
Schools might too. Well,
because we make it sound so simple, like, oh, it's going to be in the court system, but you have to pay attorneys to go do these things, and I'm wondering where that money will come from.
Attorneys know there's a ton of money in these rulings. They will be there. The attorneys are, like, you go back to the, you know who made all the money in the Nassar settlement? The attorneys.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
Yes, because they represented.
Like, a couple around here did.
Yeah, absolutely. you made, I mean, as altruistic as they all wanted
I saw them everywhere.
As they all wanted to sound, like, if you were representing 40 clients,
yeah.
who brought in, you got 40 shares of that anyway. So but and some of these are single person cases. You've seen that. That's what the House case initially was, right? And so we'll see where these things go. But schools that want to win in football and want to play at the highest level and have advantages now are not going to let those advantages be taken away. And so MSU has to make sure it is able to, and it doesn't have to do it exactly like everybody else. It's getting, it's. What MSU has to be, to me, to be successful is creative and nimble and on the front foot. And I'm very curious to see what J Batt does with that stuff.
And creative and nimble, but where does that get you, right? We've talked about $40 million kind of money for certain football schools or something like that. But does that mean so Michigan State wants to dip their toe in it, but only at $21 million? So when these things inflate, like these numbers we hear, and then it's like, how long is this going to be sustainable for where this money's flowing in? I'm hearing the Texas Tech softball girls getting like $1 million to stay, but how much money does softball bring in? Well, not much whatsoever.
So that's the question. A place like that, a deal like that, for example, would have to be, because nobody is going to pay it. So everybody's got like $21 million if you sign up for. Everybody's doing the rev share.
So that's pretty much a basic.
That's the baseline number if you're in the rev sharing. Anything beyond that is not supposed to exist beyond legitimate NIL, which is just not going to be the case. When I say 40 to 50 million a year is what they're bracing, these schools are bracing for another 20 plus million a year in pay for play, old school collectives, or some other way of funding their roster to separate them from other schools. And so the question then becomes, how do you do that? What sort of teeth will the NCAA have? Do schools allow themselves to be governed, and to what degree, and policed, and within conferences and all? It's going to be really fast. But that's the part of it now that gets interesting. I do think this is a good first step, because this is the part that's probably warranted, the revenue sharing. Yeah. This is the part that when you look at and you go, okay, schools are bringing in this much money because of football and this much because of men's basketball. Well, those athletes probably should have some of the share of the revenue. Everything else is, that's where it gets sticky, and that's where college sports is unlike anything else, because it's not real market value, and it's not, there's no, there's some market value. Obviously, people are willing to pay that, but it's just different, and it's not a, it's not a collectively bargain. That's how you get out of this, is collective bargaining initially, and athletes being employees. But I think we're still a ways from that. So it'll be interesting. Everybody's acting right now like this is a really good day, like this sets parameters, this will get things under control. I don't know that it does any of that.
Well, it's a decent start, though. You would say, after what we've been through, and really no parameters whatsoever. So I guess it's a start. But if you're celebrating the fact that it's over now and don't worry about your college athletics, everybody. Like, I'm not sure that you're even close to that yet.
And does it make it more palatable for some people who are struggling with it right now? And that's what I don't know either. But if you're Michigan,
I think it's just kind of a wait and see attitude, right? Like, if it just gets corrupt and ass, and like your team's not doing well, I could see a lot of people just be like, all right, well, I'm going to watch something else. I'm out.
They're definitely pro athletes now, because now they're being paid by the school. Yeah. Now they're being paid for what they're doing, and
a lot of these guys were getting paid. It's just 100%. We had to turn our head like we did in gambling 15 years ago, acting like it wasn't happening.
Sure, and they should have been getting paid before. So that was the ridiculous point. The fact that there were the Miles Bridges $40 agent lunch was such a big deal is just ridiculous.
Well, I use the story all the time. Tum Tum Nairn was in here years and years ago, and he couldn't even accept like a sandwich from Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
Like that's where we were.
Like, we should all be smacked upside the head for like buying into that shit, me included. I wrote columns that to this day I should be banished from column writing
Really?
and from this earth. I don't know about this earth. That's rough. But from column writing, for opinions I had not that long ago. I just bought into this like this freaking gullible lemming that all of us were. And I understand that what was important before is that everybody, and what I think a lot of people want now is they want people to play by the same rules. So there's not, there's an understanding what the rules are. You may not be able to afford the rules, but everybody agrees these are the rules and we're going to do this. And it's not viewed as cheating to gain an advantage, right? And that's what will get really interesting now, because they seem dead set on this idea of deals that are more than 600 have to be approved by a clearinghouse, and what those have to look like, and what this does to collectives, and what this does to big-time donors who a lot of places I think we're probably waiting to get to this moment. And so if schools are assuming they have them for things that are beyond the rev share help, I don't know that they'll be there everywhere. And so, again, this is why Michigan State hired a new AD for this moment. I think Alan Haller did, he had an understanding of what was coming to some degree. I think he had a pretty good understanding of what was coming. The thing that was, I think, a question with him was how much was he willing to push the envelope and lead from the front foot, which I think at a place like Michigan State you have to be willing to do. And in this day and age, if you're MSU, it's the difference between being really, really middle of the pack, kind of stuck there, and having a chance to dip your toe in an area that, I think MSU fans would like to experience.
So looking
again.
back on it, should we be shocked? I mean, I was shocked when I saw Alan Haller was fired back a couple of weeks ago or whatever.
Well,
I don't know. Now that we have everything out in front of us now, I'm like, why was I so surprised back then? And obviously because I don't know the inner workings of what goes on. I don't know some of these donor guys. So, I don't know like Matt Seed knows all of that stuff, but.
Well, Matt Seed determined all this stuff.
He sure did.
Yeah.
He was the leader in the clubhouse for the Alan Haller firing. So I credit to him.
It's not that it was a surprise. Like I thought it was 50-50 he'd get a new contract, and or get a couple years at it. What I didn't know is I didn't know what Kevin Guskowitz thought of him, and I questioned his faith in Haller a little bit, and I knew there was some strife with donors. I did not understand it to what degree. It wasn't until I started poking around that level, and that's on me. Like I probably should have been poking around months earlier to a greater degree about like
really good peanut.
How frustrated. And I'm not talking the Jim Hios level donor. That's that's on Channel 10. But I'm talking like the top guys who control this stuff and control the mood and really set the tone for the amount of money you have to be able to raise, not just at MSU, and not just MSU athletics, but MSU in general. But beyond that, you're in a situation. I mean, this is what J Batt's hired to do: is to navigate this, figure it out, and I'll be very curious to see where it goes. But this will now be his legacy: is can he steer MSU in a time of rev sharing and what else? And the what else is really the question. What's your take?
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
I was kind of embarrassed over the weekend, Graham. Not by many other things that I should be embarrassed about, but I was kind of nervous about the Cubs series with the Tigers over the weekend. And I know Saturday they ended up getting blown out. That thing happens. But I don't know why I'm so gun-shy on my favorite teams. Is it the Frank Ragnow retirement or the constant beating I've taken as a fan over the years to where I can't trust this Tiger? Like, I trust this Tigers team. Obviously, I'm watching every game. That means I'm absolutely fascinated by what's going on with the team. But why am I still? Is it because everybody tells me, there's always every team goes through some slump, and then I'm waiting around for a slump? I don't like being that way. I just want to sit there and enjoy this team. This team is fun. And worrying about who they should add and all that other stuff. I don't mind doing that. But sitting there doubting my favorite team when they've been playing well all season long. Like, what is the point? I guess, this point is now of like, when can I stop being a wuss bag and just going, yeah, we're one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. I just don't know if I can believe it yet.
Yeah.
Right? We are. I think they've proven it.
They're 41 and 23.
43 and 24.
43 and 24.
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, yeah, no, at this point, you start to look at that record. There's 7 games up on teams that are good teams that are 5 games. The teams behind them are 5 games over 500. There's 7 games up. They would have to go like 40. Would they have to go like 41 and 54 the rest of the way not to hit the over, which is pretty remarkable at this point.
It is.
And what's interesting, what I love about the Tiger situation is if they keep playing like this and they're not in this constant fight for a playoff berth where they're grinding out with some other team 2 games back, a game back, whatever, in the wild card race, it allows you to think about the postseason in terms of your roster. And again, if your roster is good enough to get there in the regular season, I'm not saying you don't have to think about the regular season. What I'm saying is if the roster is good enough to win the division, your whole thought in the trade deadline is what wins playoff series, right? It doesn't have to be how do you make the playoff push. Yeah. The team is good enough to make the playoffs. If the only goal is to make the playoffs, you just stand pat and let it ride. But the question now is, what do you need? And so where in the playoffs you need less depth of pitching, at least as starters, and more frontline stuff, because you really need, 3 starters in the postseason? That's all you're ever going to use based on the 6 days off between each game that Major League Baseball stupidly does or whatever. I'm just kidding, obviously, but it's not reflective of the regular season. You got to have a great bullpen, and then you've got to have, I think you got to have a lineup that gives different types of pitchers trouble. And so to me, it's still going to be, and they'll have to look at their pitching situation and do they have enough when you talk about Skubal and Flaherty at the top and maybe they do.
Flaherty looked good yesterday.
Looked real good. Looked like he's come through it.
And they talk about, should we add a bat or something like that? But then you see a guy like this Jones kid, all of a sudden, kind of a retread kind of guy where Harris finds these guys that come up and it's just like, what do you add? What do you tell someone like Scott Harris to add when he's already 9 steps ahead of you playing chess of these guys and seeing things that you're not seeing? Like Margot comes up and actually helps us win a game with driving in a run, and then he's gone. Well, so it's just
Let me ask you that then. I mean, we're at a situation with Brad Holmes where we don't even discuss all the time what the Lions should do. Like last year, we had a little bit of a time with a pass rusher, but otherwise it was like we don't discuss it because we trust him. He obviously sees what the rest of us see, and he'll do what's right. We trust him.
I mean, but there is a question about Brad Holmes of
you don't trust him?
I do. Well, obviously you trust him, but when we were going through an injury situation last year where we needed some defensive end help, and I know I'm not saying to go out and Max Crosby trade and make not saying that he was even available for 3 first-round picks. But Zadarius Smith, and then you stand pat, like you're just standing pat on some of these guys, whereas you see like a couple guys released today, the dude from Cincy and then Jair Alexander, who's never healthy, but these guys at corner that you can possibly bring in because that's what Philadelphia does, who just won a Super Bowl. And that's all we want to do is win a Super Bowl. So there's one part of us, obviously, that goes, all right, Brad Holmes knows what he's doing. But on the other hand, he's like, why aren't we bringing in anyone we can to try to get this fucking Super Bowl?
Okay, well,
so that's the only kind of thing.
Well, let me turn it to Scott Harrison. But do you at this point, is Scott Harris reached that level because of what he's done with this roster and what he's done with us? Yeah. What he's done also with us thinking that he's got an owner that's a little cheap and still been able to do it. Has he reached the point where we trust him pretty much explicitly?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to because baseball is obviously a way different sport than football because you have to see the long game with some of these guys and a lot of where you see a guy and you go, how in the hell is this guy a baseball player? And then you see him getting called up to the big show, So, I guess, obviously you have to for what he's done in this short period of time, this turnaround, especially last season in making the playoffs, where we all thought, okay, they had an improbable run last year. Now the drop-off is going to happen. And now they have one of the best records in Major League Baseball.
And one of the things
every time someone gets called up, there's a hit or something happens to where they produce. So you have to trust a guy like that.
Well, and the other thing is, one of the best things to me about them making the playoffs last year in that run, and it was great that they won a series too and all that stuff, is that all of that's been done. We talk about it in terms of the Lions when the first year, winning a playoff game, getting to the Super Bowl, all that sort of all these steps you need to take or whatever. And if the Tigers had gone on that really impressive run late last year, but say the Twins hadn't fallen apart and they had missed the playoffs by 4 or 5 games, and it had been great at the end but not good enough, I think a lot of the focus this year would still be on, boy, wouldn't it be great to be in the playoffs? Like that, we hadn't felt that for them in a long, long time. Instead, everybody's felt that. Everybody's felt what it's like to win a series even. So, and when you're this good and when you got, the best record in baseball, the idea should be, and you've got the best pitcher in the baseball that you don't know you're going to have for more than 2 postseasons. You don't know how, then go for it now. And there's no other way to look at it. And I think the fan base, I think they have to think that way because obviously the record reflects it. And But to me, I do trust a little bit. I just think I still look at that lineup certain days and I go, that lineup doesn't scare me. And I think if you threw another really good bat in the middle of it, all of a sudden, it does scare.
But it's scary because those guys don't go away. I mean, if you look at it at face value, they're never out of it. And they're guys that will end up come up and get a big hit. I know Torkelson will end up doing that. Riley Green.
But think about
that. Kerry Carpenter hits for power too. And it's just, I just think that there's guys there. And if you watch the game in, game out, that the lineup is kind of weird looking, but it ends up working.
So third, say you've got Casey Mize and,
Reese,
the best of this lineup or whatever, pitching, in a postseason game, I still think like I'd want the lineup to be a little more. I'd want to fear it a little more than you do right now, and I think that's worth kicking around. That said, again, I'm at this point with Scott Harris where I'm not gonna, if he sees
especially
something,
with the run differential up there with some of the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Cubs. It's wild. That's what I mean. To sit there and go, well, these guys need to add a bat. When you see the run differential, you're like, wow, Jesus, how are these guys getting it done?
No, it was
it's a great problem to have.
And
I'm enjoying it. I just feel like I'm a complete wuss bag with my favorite teams, where I want to sit there and go full Tony Dombrowski sometimes, but then I'm like, here's where the other shoe drop. I'm other shoe drop guy. And I think it's just because of my age and what I've been through and what I've seen in my sports world.
And again, it was part of an incredibly entertaining weekend of sports, and even Saturday's Coco Gauff French Open final, all part of my Xfinity viewing experience. The most entertaining thing I saw this weekend, presented by Xfinity. And again, Xfinity Mobile. If you're paying too much for your cell phone right now, look into Xfinity Mobile. Same service as Verizon, same coverage map, far better pricing. And they're able to do that because, it's not really, that's not where Xfinity makes its hay. That's on the other side of things, on the viewing side of things. So far better pricing. If you want that quality service and a reliable network at a better rate, check out Xfinity/mobile, Xfinity.com/mobile today. And you might find a deal that's much more in your price range with great quality phone service. Do you have anything else?
Real quickly, I know that we talk golf, or at least I do on this podcast. And if you don't like golf, let's say you hate golfers, you hate the PGA, you hate the stuffiness, and I think this weekend's U.S. Open is one that you're going to want to watch at Oakmont. Because these guys are going to be frustrated. It's Oakmont in Pennsylvania, that golf course, the country club there, is one of the hardest golf courses of all time, not just in the United States or blah, blah, blah. Oakmont is going to be definitely tough this week. It's going to be soft. It's going to be wet. Not to be weird. Sorry, that sounded weird. But it's going to be one of those things where I think even par could win this tournament. Maybe one over could win this tournament.
I can't wait for your golf bets with Harry on Wednesday.
Oh, man. I tell you what, it's going to be fun this weekend because I tell you, it's one of those, like I said, if you don't like golf whatsoever, or you're like, man, I'm not very good at golf, you get to watch professional players hit out of 6-inch rough and shoot double bogeys and shit like that. So it's fun viewing, even if you're not a fan. But I definitely can't wait for the U.S. Open this weekend.
No, awesome. No, it'll be fun. I've been thinking the U.S. Open was this week for 3 weeks now, so this is exciting for me.
Well, he's on the PGA.
Right.
Do you have any PGA picks? That was the one.
Yeah, I get confused on the golf.
It is confusing. If you don't follow every week in, week out, it can get confusing.
I do like that golf and tennis seem to understand how to pace themselves separately. Like, you don't see the U.S. Open going up against the French final, or we get one after the other. It's kind of cool. You get, these are things that aren't every. It's not like a sports season where there are games every weekend, and these things that come along that are fun, like a French Open finals weekend and a Wimbledon finals weekend, a U.S. Open, these sort. I don't know.
I just love your passion for having just one sporting event on a TV at a time.
Yeah,
like that's it. I just need one.
One thing needs to bleed into the other. Yeah, I don't need. I don't need too much. Don't need too much here. Are we ready to dig into these listener takes?
I guess so. Let's do it. Dominic up first. Number one, Netflix needs to have a Hawkins Hive section for all of Jake's show recommendations. Most Hawk shows binged gets to binge the entire series of Blue Bloods with Hawk on your sofa as a special guest.
I love it.
That's a good prize right there. Two, it feels absurdly greedy to say when they have the best record in baseball, but I just feel like the Tigers have another level if they can just acquire one more bat. Difference between could win it all and should win it all. And three, Senator Elizabeth Warren showed up at the West Side neighborhood last night to fat shame Graham over his groovy donuts. And bonus, Graham told me Monica and Andrew would make me a commemorative pastry for my whoring ex-girlfriend called the penicillin punchki.
Oh, man, the penicillin punchki in honor of Dominic's ex-girlfriend. I love that. I love this idea. He
lube everywhere.
he what do you call it? When he tagged Elizabeth Warren in a post instead of my wife Elizabeth. And I'd like him to keep it that way. That he keeps instead of tagging my wife. I don't need my wife tagged in any of our.
Or Elizabeth Warren, I guess.
I don't mind her. That's her own problem. Elizabeth Warren's fine. She's not in my life. So but my own wife, Elizabeth Wolf, I would have an issue with. Yeah.
She doesn't go by Elizabeth Couch.
Well, she goes by Elizabeth Couch, but like her maiden name is Elizabeth Wolf.
People that matter. To people that matter, she's Elizabeth Wolf.
Yeah, well, she's Elizabeth Couch to everybody.
Oh,
she changed her name.
Treese didn't change her name. I wouldn't do that to her with this shit last name. She's got a great last name.
What's wrong with Nick?
It's not a Treese Nick. It fucking doesn't sound. It sounds stupid. Treese Lestroscio. I mean, she's got an Italian name.
She's got a great last name.
Why would I ruin it with Nick? I don't want my own last name. You know how hard? Like when I go get a prescription at Walgreens, like how I have to. It's so nerve wracking because they all automatically go Nick. I even say Knick. I want away with this last name. I don't need it.
It's not because of the rap sheet that comes up on your under.
I don't care about that. I talk about that shit on here. I just want to get my prescription, and they go, "I'm sorry, can you spell that?" I'm like, Nick, like New York Knicks, and it's like a girl, so she doesn't know sports, So I'm just like, fucking forget it. Jason, my name's Jason. K, like J Batt.
Yeah,
Jason K.
I have to tell him couch like a sofa every time.
How else do you spell couch?
That you would think people would only know one way, but apparently there people get confused. They don't. Hear
I need
couch
another way to spell couch.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, seriously. Like, what do you mean? How does someone misspell your name?
That's a good question.
Oh, Ben Schulich next. The onus for the White House settlement or the House settlement should be on athletic departments doing a complete reset on expenses versus squeezing fans for more money. The reason why we are all in this mess is because they didn't want to share revenue, but they had to do something with the excessive money. So they bloated salaries of coaches, athletic directors, and key support staff like strength and conditioning coaches, facilities. They won't do this, but they should scale down these expenses to make room for the House settlement revenue share instead of asking fans for more. And baked, Tiger fans should start an NIL collective to raise money to subsidize the Tigers' max offer to Scooball. Call it Friends of Tigray?
Yeah, Tigray.
Seriously, is there a rule against something like this? It works in college. Why not the pros?
Usually it's not allowed in the collective bargaining agreement, and this is how you get fixed in college too, but it's like the WNBA, there was a team that got in trouble for this because it's in the collective bargaining agreement, and they basically, I forget what company it was. I feel like it was Utah's WNBA team, but somebody was trying to do this to scale
Utah
up.
has a WNBA team? No shit.
Hold on, let me look this up. Now I'm just making shit up.
Oh, I was about to say.
I am the passenger.
Big 10 plus his ass.
I ride through the city spectrum.
Okay, so I might have it wrong, but no, there is a Utah WNBA team, but I'm not sure who had this NIL deal. But
why
anyway,
didn't Z-Dog tell me? Unbelievable.
Yeah, so that is that's what I mean. You just can't do that. They don't want people doing that. They don't want. Otherwise, teams would start to do this and exploit their fans and exploit don't. You just don't.
They already do.
It just doesn't. Well, they do in other ways.
I got 19 apps on my TV to watch fucking golf.
Fair enough.
In sports,
but they don't want what's going on in college sports, which is an unsustainable way of turning off fans. And even if national writers don't realize that it's going to kill the sport, and sorry, I had to take a shot at national writers. It's what I. It's
shots fired.
It's what I do. I agree with Ben's take on number one to some degree. Like, to me, you have to think of your budget and if say your athletic budget was before 140 million, 150 million, and now it's got to be 130 based on everything else other than the rev share, right? Because you have to pay the rev share, and so you got to recalibrate, and that's gonna. And they've already done that a lot of places. Like Michigan State's not hiring a lot of extra people for jobs that they don't fill certain things, and they've I mean, a lot of this has already happened under Alan Haller, and I'm sure J Batt will have some of his own folks and some more changes and things like that. And everybody's trying to figure this out. But at some point, if you can't afford what's required, then you have to change what you're doing. And so everybody's got to look at everything.
Pigskin scoop next. The Tigers will not be able to keep Skubal because Chris Ilitch is a cheap bastard.
To me, this Skubal isn't the Ilitch litmus test anymore just because of the Scott Boras dynamic and the whatever. I mean, and the other thing is, like Scott Harris and again, it's not Scott Harris's money, but at a certain point, like if it's $400 million over 6 years for a pitcher who's had Tommy John, like I know he's the best pitcher in the game, and I know there's no salary cap, but like I don't know if Skubal is a litmus test. I don't know if he is. To me, it's more Riley
What else
Green's,
do you need to see from Skubal though? If you're Chris Ilitch, I just think if you don't have him on your roster in 3 years, that you need to sell your team. If you just sit there and let him walk, what are we doing?
And I'll say this: they're selling out the stadium now. It's packed. Like you're raking in money again, and the team is really good, and the team deserves to have.
He rakes money in whenever we're good, and when we're good, we show up.
Yep,
and that goes for any one of the sports.
And he should remember that.
Yeah, why not? What are you doing? MCV number one: the House settlement won't have the effect on college athletics fans want until there are contracts binding the student athletes to remain with the program. And baked, more pizza places need to start selling ice cream or gelato. It's the best dessert to have after pizza.
It is good. Yeah.
Jeez. Gelato after pizza?
It's a lot.
And ice cream? Like, pizza's enough for me. Maybe I have to space it out, though. Right? Like 2 hours later, snag some ice cream.
Yeah, I do love pizza.
But to have like ice cream right at,
I don't need anything right after pizza because I'm going to eat so much pizza that I'm going to eat myself to the point of being full with pizza and beyond. Like it's not. Yeah.
Somebody tweeted Elizabeth Warren. Let her know.
MCV's right on number one here too. I mean, the thing about what people really want from the House settlement is they want some order to the chaos. They want to understand their team again. They want to be able to relate to their players to some degree. They want to know who's going to be on their team. They want it to be a little bit. They want to have the feel they used to have, and they don't want guys leaving the program who just came in 5 months later. And you may start to get this to some degree with the rev share because how that gets organized and what you're able to do with that. You may be able to say this is a contract we're willing to offer somebody who's going to be here for 2 years minimum. I do think the idea of contracts, of understanding the length of a contract. We all understand how long Cade Cunningham is going to be with the Pistons. We know his contract. We all understand what Jared Goff's contract is. And there is a piece with that. Even if a guy's on a 1-year contract, we know it's a 1-year contract. You either re-sign him or you go somewhere else at the end of that year in college athletics. If it's a 2-year contract, it's a 2-year. I just think having clarity is what people want.
Corey Ostrom, number one, glad to see the House settlement pass, but it is absolutely a ridiculous idea and misuse of funds to compensate those who participated from 2016 to 24. The rules in those years didn't allow for schools to pay. And two, the college athlete contracts drawn up going forward should include a requirement of attending school with at least 9 credit hours and a GPA of at least 2.0. These are still educational institutions. They should also require athletes to follow the MSU Employee Code of Conduct.
There are lots, and we'll see. If they become employees, that will be something that.
Well, if those are the rules, I'm not signing. Yeah. That's what they're going to say, right?
Well,
I'm not doing school. What are you talking about?
And there are a couple ways to look at this. With the,
I agree with Corey, but I'm just going from the athlete's perspective.
Well, there are a couple ways to look at this too. We've created largely a system, and not in every sport, but in some sports, where college is the minor league for sports, right? It is the developmental process for sports. And is that fair? Why should, if you're great at something, should your only path be through college because we love our alma maters and we therefore want college football? And I'm not saying it works any other way. I'm just saying that, I also understand, if you are a great basketball player, and there are other avenues in basketball, but you have a skill that a lot of other people have. Maybe you don't want to do school. Why should you have to do school to develop that skill? And yet we have placed the development of that skill within school. So there's also some bullshit in how we've done this. This is why people in Europe think the whole idea of college sports is absolutely absurd. But again, I'm just throwing to the other side. I'm not saying that if we're going to do it in college, there probably should be some level of accountability academically and in other ways as well.
John Johnson next. Number one, in the NIL world, if you're not an established program or brand, it's harder to gain traction year over year and actually build something. Even when you identify and develop those guys, become targets to put contenders over the top, MSU is just the top 20 teams farm system. 2, not a take, but a question. If either of you left the show, would you be replaced or would the show just die? If so, who would you choose to replace your co-host? And don't give a cop-out answer of your co-host is irreplaceable.
Well, the show would die without. I will.
Here comes Solari.
I will. I will.
Solari in the Rube. No, absolutely.
I don't know what I would do. The show would die, first of all.
Yeah, Couch in the Rube would be dead.
Yeah. The only show I've ever wanted to do beyond this show, but in the same vein, is there is a it would be outside of sports. There's a woman who used to work at the LSJ, and she left the LSJ years ago to go to school to become a pastor, right? And she's now like the number 2 pastor at People's Church in East Lansing. Haley Hansen plays on the LSJ softball team, by the way, still. She is absolutely, like, if you go out for drinks with her after a game, I always wish like a microphone was recording. She is funny on so many topics, and her delivery is so good. I always thought there would be a funny show called like Couch in the Rev instead of Couch in the Rube, which would be funny to do. That was my idea. But she would have to carry it, and we'd have to put a lot of effort into it that I don't know if I'm willing to do. But anyway, I've always wanted to do a podcast with her. But that would be separate. That wouldn't replace this.
Let's end this show now.
Just to do that?
Have that show come on.
Okay.
I want to listen to that.
Okay. She'd be great. She'd be amazing, for sure.
Oh, maybe. Number 1, the Savannah Bananas are a better show and pricier ticket than the Colorado Rockies. When a Chippendales-esque parody team is better than an actual MLB team, it's time to sell. And 2, Aussie Jason isn't too bad. Sprinkle in some crikeys and overt positivity about Steve Irwin, and it's there. That's what I did, though. I was avenging Steve Irwin's death.
Were you?
Yeah, that's what I did. That's when I.
The I know.
No. The other time, I got stoned off my ass, and then I was doing that for. We were watching some boxing thing. I don't remember. Sorry, but I was avenging. I was just doing in front of trees for like 2 straight hours. My Australian guy, and I was avenging for Steve Irwin's death.
Why don't we get 2 straight hours if you're Australian guy?
Because I can't smoke the same amount of fucking weed here because I got to drive home and get out of here at some point. Like, I don't have a chauffeur. I would love, believe me, I would love to do the show that stoned. I think I would be way funnier.
We need to find a way that I'll just call you an Uber at some point, both ways.
Ubers go to Ovid.
They would go to Ovid.
What the fuck? No, there's no way, sir.
They would go to Ovid if we paid them to go to Ovid.
But wow, listen to this guy.
I'm just saying.
Sounds like a Jim Hios mover and shaker. Oh, we could get him out there. By the way, the Savannah Bananas, let me preface this. I don't care what you do with your free time. If you enjoy this shit, more power to you. I despise the Savannah Bananas. When it's on, when it comes on ESPN on the second TV, I can't jump to my remote fast enough. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I'm 46 years old, and these guys doing dances and shit, it's not for me. And that's okay. And I'm going to step back now, but I saw the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? I get people and kids like it and all that blah, blah shit, but I just, yuck.
The Colorado Rockies I feel awful for their fans. Was it Passing from ESPN who said they're 10 years behind or something like that? Like, that's like the worst thing you can say about a franchise. Like, 10 years?
10 years.
Oh, my God.
Although the Tigers, I kept hearing a 7-year plan not too long ago.
It happened quickly. Yep.
I don't know how quickly. I heard that like 15 years ago, a 7-year plan. Roger Pepper, L next. I'm widely optimistic about MSU football within reason. Tell us your feeling about our running game and the O-line that supports it. Your show keeps getting better. Keep up the great work. Thanks.
Appreciate you, Roger.
Well, here's an answer. I don't know. That's what I'm just going to say.
No. I'll say that I strangely feel better about this offensive line for Michigan State than I have in a while. And again, I keep prefacing that by saying it's long past the point they have to prove it. And part of it might be I don't feel as good about like the defensive line. Like I just feel like the offensive line is an area where I think they're going to have a chance to be pretty stable.
Well, that was Jonathan Smith's territory at Oregon State, right?
Well, they built a great running game, right? And the running back situation, they're real young. one transfer from Sacramento State. And I don't know that you need a dynamic running back, but I don't know if they have it either. I think it's more important that you're great up front. But again, I don't know if they'll be that. I just think when you look at some of the development, some of the things I hear, guys like Stanton Ramil and guys that people are really high on, and guys, I just think there's a chance that they've got a couple guys who are upper tier Big Ten linemen, and then a solid line around, and that's something they haven't really had. And so I'm curious to watch it, as I am every year, and every year they've sort of been disappointing for the most part. But the running game is they're very young. There's some running back's a position you can play young. Doesn't mean you have to you don't need a ton of veterans, and they must feel okay there, because I also feel like running back is a position where, and I know there's everybody talks about a money shortage and all this stuff, but running back's a position, a diva position. People want the ball. You could go get a running back transfer with the promise of opportunity without too much trouble, and they haven't done more than that, other than the guy from Sac State.
Gorjo next. Some fans want the MSU football staff to print out the rivals' rankings and make calls from the top down. I think Jonathan Smith relies more on internal scouting and development potential. I'm fine with that approach, but if we don't see results on the field this season, it needs to change.
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, to me, on-field is everything, right? It's Mark D'Antonio proved that in his way worked for him for a time. And any coach that wants to live their philosophy, I'm good with it. I was good with Mel Tucker's philosophy. I think it had promise, and the way he was trying to recruit and bring Michigan State to a different level of guys and all that stuff. But ultimately, what matters is the development and the play on the field. And so you can do it your way, you can do it somebody else's way, you can do it any which way you want to do, but eventually it's got to look a certain way on the field. And so that's.
But isn't that like a nice level-headed take from Gorjo? I mean, it's basically essentially a nice way to put, he's got his own ways, but he better win this year, because that's how other people put it. And then you go, listen, you got to give him another year.
And again, winning this year, and again, he says if we don't see some results on the field this season, and results on the field can be a lot of different things. And I think this will be a year where you know what you see. Last year, the last 5 games of last year were so demoralizing in a lot of ways, really, after that start at Michigan. So the last 4.67 games of last year, whatever it was, that's where it just can't look like that. It's not even – some of it's results-based, some of it's winning, because people feel good after wins. You can play not that great and win a game, and we'll come in here and everybody – it's just a different tone. People feel okay. So you got to win. But I think beyond that, it's got to look different. It's got to feel different. It can't feel like a spiral like it did at the end of the year. Like, boy, this is a really bad It felt like a really bad football team at the end of the year, and it can't feel like that. That can't be the situation. Again, they're not gonna fire him after next season. The money doesn't shape up that way, and I don't think it would be the right thing to do for a program that's trying to find its footing here with a guy who's been a good coach somewhere else. But it would make a big difference, not just for the fan base's belief in him, but in recruiting, because part of the ability to recruit is to have some program momentum, to be able to point to something on the field, and people go, oh, that looks all right. You think about Mel Tucker's best recruiting June. When did it happen? It happened the year after the 21 season, right? And that was the 11-2 team, and everybody felt great about the program. People want juice. That's the on-the-field stuff creates juice, and it can change quickly. That's why what's happening this summer, and I know they've had some commitments lately and all this stuff, it doesn't really make a huge difference to me, because I want to see what happens. What's the response if they start to do something on the field, and who are the guys who actually sign?
Matt C. next. There is nothing more annoying than these MSU football recruiting sites trying to talk up these 3 stars with MAC offers. MSU recruiting is in the worst shape it's been in decades. Why would anyone pay for this nonsense? Baked. I hope J Batt walks into that athletic building like Ari Gold with the paintball gun and gets rid of all the dead weight in there.
So, Matt C., I'll say this. I do not think – I don't like that I'm saying I'll say this, by the way. I keep saying that. I don't know what that is. That's not usually my thing. It's something new. We're going to get rid of that.
It's not bad.
Fix it in post.
Yeah, it's kind of smarmy.
I think there's a lot less dead weight in that building than you probably envision. You probably envision like just these like lifetime bureaucrats sitting around pushing pencil, pushing paper. I get paid. I'm going home. You know what? First of all, there are a lot of really talented people there. There are a lot of they've gone through transformations already and moving people around. And I mean, that was part of what Alan Haller did. And I'm sure J Batt will have his own ideas, and there will be some more movement and all that. That's natural. There are a lot of really good people in that building. And if I have conversations with a lot of them from time to time, and you get a sense of it. I'm sure there are places where they could be stronger, and there are redundancies here and there, and that stuff. Who knows? But the perception that people are just if there is a perception that people on there aren't talented or aren't good at what they do. Now, what they do is to some degree is changing, and the roles have to change as college sports becomes professional sports. But there's a lot of really good people in that building, and a lot of really good people who don't make that much money either. I think that's important to say. These aren't like there are people in there making some people make okay money, but there are some people in there, and it's all you can foil any of it. There are also people in there who do not make much at all, and they do good work.
Sparty Barb next. Number 1, the House settlement decision will be tied up in the courts for another 5 years. 2, no revenue sharing money in the near future means corporate sponsorship is more important than ever for MSU. And 3, I received a fan experience survey from the MSU athletic department last week. One of the questions asked for concession suggestions. My answer was keep Coke products and add Groovy Donuts to the menu. Bless
you, Barb. I'm telling you, you had a winning team in Groovy Donuts to Spartan Stadium, and all of a sudden everything seems possible. Renovations and the timeline, everybody's happy again. Because again, Groovy Donuts and winning are both bringing joy to people. To the House settlement will have court. There will be lots of court cases that follow this. The revenue sharing is going to exist immediately, though. I think I don't think that part of it is going to be prevented. Corporate sponsorship, all this stuff's going to be important. You got to be creative. Like one of the things that Alan Haller took a lot of shit for, and maybe rightly so, and certainly it wasn't handled perfectly, was the Caesars Sportsbook partnership. It was, was that something people wanted? Is that the right fit for a college? You can absolutely argue no. But what it was trying to think outside of the box to ways to raise revenue. And so there's going to have to be more of that, and not every sponsorship is going to be as good a fit as our sponsors are with us. But I think you're dead on. You've got to be creative. You've got to have lots. You want to have You don't want money to be an issue, right? You just don't. And you want to have ways to adjust to whatever the new way is, or whatever path the top winning programs are going down.
Skylar Verdon next. If MSU had a good year in football, it will have very little to do with the new AD. This team was already set, but people would still try to claim it was because we fired Haller. Will be confirmation bias at its best.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. Don't be reasonable. Whatever happens on the football field, this coming season will have zero to do with Alan Haller or J Batt. Right? It doesn't work that way. Nothing ever. Bill Beekman and Mark Hollis and what was happening on the field, over time you can create a culture that helps your football team. But from a few months later, like that's not why. I mean, the MSU football, the cake is baked on what MSU football has at its disposal in terms of talent and staff and everything this year, and they'll be what they are, but it will have nothing to do with the AD situation. Jason, do you think that Bill Beekman?
Every time you say Bill Beekman, I immediately think of that drop.
I'm so glad it still exists. It's the best.
Andrew Gauthier, J Batt will be the Mark Hollis of this era, bringing MSU football back to competing every year and having a shot at a title every 3 to 5 years. And bonus, Graham, we need to see another Donut Day challenge before you quit eating contests for good. I believe in you. I think we can beat 9 donuts in 10 minutes.
I think I could too. I don't know what my doctor would say to that. I love Groovy Donuts, and I want to be able to continue to eat Groovy Donuts for the rest of my life. Your doctor would be like,
that's on brand. You're just doing it a little faster.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as someone that's eaten like 4 of those in rapid succession recently, it is like 9 is a lot. It is crazy. I think you could breeze through 5, but it's those next ones. Right.
I've said when we did this contest a few years ago that the first 6 were the best experience of my life.
Right.
Everything with my wife included. And then the next 4 were harder. And the thing that sucked about it too is like you're eating something that's pure joy, but it's not as fun. Like it's when joy stops being fun, it's not as great. I'm not anti-eating contests. I'm not anti-trying at some point again. It would have to be immediately following.
Can we hear from your doctor though?
Blood work.
Like I think that you're putting the concern, like your doctor's concern. I don't know if it's there.
My doctor has some concerns about me.
Well, yeah. I mean, naturally.
And look at me.
Yeah, it's weird. You have multiple treadmills, and
I'm still fat.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, your doctor's probably right. Professor, Spartan Stadium needs fewer seats, a removable grass field, and a roof so it can be used for more events. Bonus, summer evening bonfire is peak relaxation.
It is about as good as it can get. Especially because if you make the fire and successfully, part of it is just the satisfaction of making a successful fire. Because I'm not always, believe it or not, the best Eagle Scout in the world in terms of.
So Elizabeth has to do it?
Sometimes, yeah, or somebody else is with us. I mean, I'm not bad at it. I'm actually not horrible at it, but it's you're sitting there in a muskox flannel having around a bonfire at night. It's pretty damn.
Do you guys have like one for your neighborhood? Like one person does like and everybody, you guys just all walk out of your.
There are a couple
your front door at the same time.
I'd say there are 4 houses that we go to, including ours, and we used to have a fire pit, but now we have one of those. What do they call it? It's like a whole deal with the propane and everything, and the fire just starts. It's easier. Cut
out the middleman.
Yeah, it makes it easier. I mean, I can only screw things.
No muss, no fuss.
I'm going to screw things up so bad with propane. The idea of Spartan Stadium having like a removable grass field, the roof, so it can be used for more events. Spartan Stadium as a multi-use venue is something that is not new to conversation. You do have the challenge of grass, and that is something to think about. And it's with the field turf program over there, and people are and also what's safer for football players. I mean, we got to a point, we got rid of artificial turf. We went to field turf. Field turf got better and better and better and got to the point where it's close to grass. And so there is, it was safer and more cost-effective to do that. Most high schools do it now. It's still not grass. If you do not have a grass field, you are putting finances and multi-use ahead of player safety. You are doing that, whether you are, a high school in town or you're, Notre Dame football. You are doing that. Now, it might not be to, there's a cost-benefit analysis and all that stuff, but I would sell that still if I was MSU to recruits. I mean, I would have all the data still to this day on knee injuries and long-term concussions based on turf, everything you can find. And when I'm in there, I would say, boy, you do not want to be at Ohio State. You do not want to be at Michigan. You do not want to be at Notre Dame. These are places where it'll shorten your career. I'm not talking about Michigan. And I would use all that. But then again, you're talking to the guy who would recruit against the South of the civil rights movement and just about the fan base still not wanting you to date their daughters and all that stuff. So I would.
Sir, can you leave our living room, please? It's been going on for an hour.
Yeah.
Civil war talk. Jesus.
Civil rights movement. Different era.
We're not coming there.
Well, they're 100 years apart.
Oh, my bad. MZA number 1 is only one. The Tigers will have over 100 wins this season and finish as the 1 seed in the AL. No, fuck yeah, man.
And the thing is,
I agree. I hope you're right.
The thing is, I don't care about that as much as I want to see them in the playoffs, built for the playoffs. That's the problem. What I really wish existed and I know the Supporters' Shield in MLS isn't viewed as like quite the MLS Cup, but I do wish that more emphasis was put on having the best record in baseball in the regular season because the two things don't translate, a regular season to postseason. So I wish there was, more of a trophy or whatever. You still want to win the World Series. That's the ultimate title.
So the Dodgers can have it every year?
No, it wouldn't be them every year, though. It wouldn't. I mean, I want the Seattle, the Mariners that won 116 games 20 years ago to have something up there that really recognizes that they were actually the best team in baseball that year.
Oh, believe me, people bring it up. Yeah. The fact that they didn't win a World Series. Kurt Wisniewski, I would prefer seeing Michigan receive a multi-season postseason ban than lose their mythical college football championship. That would hurt more. And bonus, Tigers and Cubs this weekend was a World Series preview.
It'd be a fun World Series. Be a lot of people around here are actually Cub fans. It'd be a weird because you could see the number of Cubs fans even at Comerica. It's amazing, that fan base. I just kept thinking years and years after.
Why is it amazing though?
Well, because
it's on WG. I mean, they were on WGN throughout our childhood or whatever.
I guess we're not that old, so that still exists.
And you can have an NL team when the Tigers are dog shit. You can at least have an NL team to.
Yeah. And Wrigley's such a fun place to visit. I get it. It's not a mythical national championship anymore, though, because now you have a playoff. It used to be a mythical national championship before there was an actual playoff. But now that, now you can argue it's not always a legitimate championship if there are more than 4 teams before it was a 12-team playoff, but it's less mythical than it was. I'm very curious to see what happens. I think, and we're probably looking at, people have been asking when that decision will come down, and it sounds like they want to get it done before football season. But I think it'll be. I think
probably be a good idea.
But I think it'll probably be like August when it happens. Just you look at the length of time it takes in other situations. It's never immediate. It's usually at least a couple months.
Welcome to the Blue Wall.
G Money next. What was at the Tigers game Sunday? Parker Meadows makes everything look so easy and smooth out there. And the only thing bigger than the Conley and Vest nutsack is the L that the Chicago Cubs took this week. Hope to see the Cubbies again in the postseason.
Parker Meadows does make it. He's got such a swagger to him. I wish I had Parker Meadows' swagger in life. I
wish I had anyone's swagger.
Yeah, Mel Tucker's. Yeah, anybody's. Yeah,
Mel Tucker's.
Yeah. Anybody's swagger.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Until he uses the phone. That's when I would end the swagger. C-Dubs, number 1, the Tigers need to put together a package for Bichette with at least 3 top 50 farm players not named Clark or McCognell. 2, the NBA isn't enjoyable to watch. Sure, players are insanely talented, but there is no coaching. It's just who hits more shots.
I think it's more than that. I think you see coaching mismatches and coaching. I think there's more to it than that. But to each their own. I think the NBA has, when you watch the Stanley Cup Finals right now, I mean, both those first 2 games have been incredible. And the NBA and the finish of Game 1 was great. It just doesn't have the same, I don't know. It's
good to see that they finally put the thing on the court, though. The NBA championship trophy.
Oh, was it not on the court for Game 1?
Superimposed it on.
Oh, it's yeah.
And everybody was losing their shit. I love what people lose their shit about, though.
It is.
Like, it was weird when I saw Game 1. I'm like, doesn't there the giant Larry O'Brien trophy in the middle there?
They finally
rectified it by just putting a little.
Bichette would be a great pickup, I think. I don't know if there's a perfect one, though. Is there a perfect pickup for you? Somebody you want?
I mean, I definitely would like Bichette. It's just how much are we giving up for him, right?
Right.
I don't mind. Yeah. Thomas, baseball is the sport closest to being a public good. What? A public service? Does it mean service?
Sorry. Yeah, public good.
Baseball is the sport closest to being a public service, so I shouldn't be blocked out of watching a weekend series because it's only broadcast on a specific regional network. And bonus, to be fair, listening to a game on the radio is kind of nice because I can do other things or run errands at the same time.
Well, and Dan Dickerson's so good. I mean, that's what the Tigers on the radio still for me is sometimes, don't get me wrong, if I'm home and I can have them on the background on TV, that's what I'm going to do. And Jason Benetti has made that experience so much better. But there is still, like, if I'm in the car driving around and listening to Dan Dickerson, like, I just enjoy the hell out of that.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah,
but they do need to get their shit together with, if the games are going to air, like, you should be able to, if you're just a Tigers fan, to turn on an app or something and get the game, no matter what app it's on.
So Friday night's game was another Apple TV game, right? That's what we're talking about.
And I have Apple TV, but I can understand why some people, if they don't have Apple TV, but you still should be able to just flip on something and be able to see the game somehow.
You should be able to do everything with Xfinity. If you have Xfinity and you're paying for the Tiger and you're paying for the FanDuel Sports Network package, and you that should get you that should be able to get you everything for sure.
Arcan Spartan next. I sent a power cord, some emails, and my eternal fandom.
Yes.
Do I need to send Groovy Donuts to get an email reply? Just tell me what it takes, Graham.
For the power cord, by the way, and I very much appreciate you.
He threw it out.
No, I never found it. I knew it was sent. I checked at the office. I checked everywhere. I'm just one. If you could tell me where you sent it, but I will. I need to get back to you on that.
Spartan, you're calling shenanigans, saying he's lying?
I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying somehow
lost in transit.
No, I can see at our office the way things work now, where it's somewhere over there, but I don't know how to find it. Yeah, it's not. It's not.
What kind of staff you got to go over there?
Yeah, well, we don't really have a receptionist anymore, right? So like And I'm not there that often.
Kind of a boring job.
I did semi-accuse my coworkers of stealing it because I knew it was coming.
Smart.
But
not really have any idea, just accuse.
Well, I just sort of said, I asked around a little bit, and nobody seemed to know, but they all seemed suspicious.
Is Couch still looking for that stupid cord? You threw it away, right?
I did not.
No.
Why would
not
I do
you,
that?
penis. I'm trying to be LSJ workers.
Yeah. No, because he knew what. For a while, that cord was always falling out of the table here at the studio.
Yeah.
And so he was helping me out. He was helping me out. Arkan's a great guy. Yeah.
A rock solid bit last year. Chris Eastlick, hot takes. Number 1, unless there is a medical reason for the horse, if you race in the Derby, you should have to commit for the Preakness and Belmont too. And bonus, the crowd at Comerica shows that if you start putting a good product on the field, people show up. If MSU puts a good product on the field, Spartan Stadium will be full in November.
100%. I mean, that's the whole thing.
It goes for anything.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If it's fun to go watch something,
people go watch
doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
times.
I do agree with your frustration. The idea that I understand you got to protect the health of horses and maybe these races are too close to each other. Like, to me, if too many horses who win the Derby are pulling out of the Preakness or Belmont Stakes, right, and you're not doing all three, because this is for the casual sports fan, this is it for horse racing. Like, we pay attention to nothing else in horse racing except for this. This is your moment to keep yourself relevant. And I know you have these certain dates and all that stuff, but maybe you put another week between each of these races if horses are 3-year-old horses are unable to safely do all three, so you can do all three, and so we can watch the potential of a Triple Crown winner. There's nothing more deflating and makes me less interested in the sport than the Derby winner not competing in the Preakness. Then it's like, all right. I mean, I may tune it on if it's because it takes 2 minutes. There are not many great things in life that only take 2 minutes. Well, I shouldn't say that, but But that's what gets the casuals watching. Like diehard horse racing people will watch those 100%.
races no matter what. But yeah.
Put an extra week. Do something to correct this.
You have to make that happen. Kevin from Rochester Hills. Number 1, Rory will miss the cut at the U.S. Open and walk away from golf. Walk away?
Wow.
2, a Michigan Panthers championship would be greater than a Lions Super. Okay, he's on bath salts.
These are
Kevin, I like you,
takes.
but you're on bath salts.
Yeah.
These aren't weed takes. These are bath salt takes.
Bath salt takes.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know why? Because I felt like I saw Harry. Harry cracks me up, and hopefully, are we doing a Wednesday show?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
so we're gonna have Harry on. I need to talk to him. He needs to stop getting in Twitter altercations. He is fighting with some guy who has 4 followers, and he's like, "Are you?" Because the guy's just obviously getting his goat, saying like, "You went 8-71 on your NFL picks," and Harry's taking it so seriously, and he's like, "Are you on gummies?" And I'm like, Harry, why are you saying that? Like, you making gummies sound like it's like a terrible thing. Like, I think of great thoughts and great things. I'm a nice guy when I take edibles, so I hate when people like, "What are you, high or something like that? Like, what are you on, weed?" So we need to say, like, what do you want, bath salts? Like, bath salts. It's a little wordy. Bath salts doesn't flow.
I like bath salts.
Crack cocaine. Anyway, Lions reply guy next. Listeners should be able to challenge other listeners in a fight to take their order of the show. I'm going to warm up with David Jackson because based on games he's been to live, he's like 80 years old. Dude, he's pesky, though, dude. Watch out for David Jackson. Bonus.
That left hook, he'll get you.
Workshopping this take, but if the Lions win the Super Bowl, will it be like the dog that caught the car and reaching the mountaintop actually will make watching the NFL less enjoyable in a sick way?
I still think it's worth it.
It'll be the sickest way possible. I can't wait to not care about the NFL. I can't wait.
The comparison is that, and you don't.
That means we won a Super Bowl.
So the only comparison of our recent lifetime of anyone nearby is like the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016, right? There were like people just waiting to die, and it never,
Right.
And so it was
same with the Red Sox.
And I did know for the few years after that, I had fans who were diehard Cubs fans who just, even when the Cubs were falling apart, they're like, I can't be upset. I just can't be upset, and that's okay. Now but there was a point, I'll say, with the Cubs in like 2022, 23 range where it was like, all right, enough of this shit. Like, what? It's just going to be crap forever. They didn't get as much out of that group as they thought and all that stuff. But, yeah, for a little bit of time, the next season, I think there will be a different kind of joy with zero pressure. It's not that you don't want to get another Super Bowl. It's not that you don't want to maximize a group. But there is a lot less pressure. If you finally won a Super Bowl, And to get to go through that next season, having done it, can you? I mean, you can't even fathom.
I'm exhausted hearing you talk about it. Just going yes, this is what I want. And that goes for the Tigers too. We act like the Tigers won a fucking World Series 10 years ago or something. It's been 41 years.
Yeah, it's a good.
You know, I'm ready for any of it.
But to your point in workshopping the take, like it's yes, there are elements. You're absolutely correct. Less enjoyable I don't think it'll be less enjoyable. I think it'll be different. And
like these fights that we would have, we would have to do it on like pay-per-view or something.
If we had fights for the order in the show,
listener fights.
Yeah,
Friday. Jay Riemenschneider next. You guys do a good job of it, but podcasters, please mute your mic when you're not talking. Nobody wants to hear you eating, drinking, coughing, typing, or breathing, or your dogs and kids. And bonus, this is the most unique, entertaining listener interactive pod I've ever heard, and that's a damn good thing.
Appreciate you, Jay. Those are very kind words.
You know, I was actually talking to Dr. J-Mo, as I talked about at the top of the show, as I was at my dentist appointment, and he did tell me, he was like, I love the fact that you guys, your microphones, like you have good microphones. And I'm like, I'm glad you said that, because I listened to some, like I tried listening to some of the Barstool guys, their podcasts, and they don't use good microphones. I guess I don't know. It's just one of my pet peeves. And like a lot of these guys that are guests on shows that do this for a living, especially when I see it on Dan Patrick, and you're just using your microphone off of your iPad or your MacBook or something like that. Like, what are we doing?
So
the microphone is one of the most important things here.
It is, and one of the great things about being here at Spotlight Studios is we have incredibly quality equipment.
Top notch.
Yeah. And
we are spoiled. But honestly, if we weren't here, you and I could cobble together some money and get good microphones.
Get good mics.
I wouldn't want to do that because I love it here at Spotlight. There's a lot better studio. But I'm saying if you and I were like, all right, we need to go look at microphones, they are obtainable.
We would make that an emphasis. Like, for
example,
isn't
like 1994 where they're like $30,000.
Well, we do, I do Spartan Speak with Chris Solari, and those mics, and they spent, a decent amount. Phil Friend went out and found them. But they're nowhere near as good as these. And because of that, people complain all the time. Chris and I have had to make a real point of when one of us isn't speaking, back your ass away from the whole thing, because it's just not.
See, that doesn't make for a good pod, because then if you had something to say, then you got to lean back in. Believe we have mute buttons on these.
Yes,
I have one over here. I try to make sure, because I'm with Jay. I agree with Jay wholeheartedly. Hearing someone chew on mic, because especially if you listen with earbuds in. Yeah. So I try to believe me.
And I coughed earlier in the show. Nobody heard it. I mean, I just hit the little thing. But yeah, and when Solari and I have a different flow, like. Solari and I, one of us talks for 37 minutes, and the other one talks for 37 minutes, so it works out a little differently.
And then gets disgusted with each other. Are you done? About time. Jesus. Munfield Keg next. This is definitely a June topic, and the last 10 minutes of the show, hot take. I love the Couch in the Rube community, but we don't need to be asking our hosts or really anybody in general about their plans when it comes to kids. I know we all joke around, but you never know what people are going through.
Well, I appreciate you, Munfield Cake. When people there are questions occasionally that we don't include if I don't think it is something that I want that either one of us is going to want to answer. I just don't include it. And so that one, I was willing to do, but I appreciate you looking out for us.
You can ask me.
Yeah.
Don't ask Couch. Ask me. When are you having it? Never, ever. Yeah. And it's one of the best choices I've ever made in my life.
If it's something
I think about it every morning. I'm like, God damn, it's so great to not have a kid.
You think there should be a tax credit?
I think I should.
No.
Yeah. For all of the stories I've told on this podcast, I really think that maybe a GoFundMe, if we have to start there, of me making a decision to not birth a child, but to have a child with another lady
that you know of.
Yeah. Right.
There is the one woman who showed up at your house the one time.
She wasn't a woman. She's a former girlfriend.
Right.
And this was years after the child had been born. She wanted me to sign off on it because I was a Maury Povich contestant almost. I was one of a couple different contestants on Are You the Father? And she gave me the option of signing off basically in the driveway of where I was. And I said, I tried doing the right thing. I said, well, I'd like to get some sort of test. And she told me how much those cost. And I said, well, how much are you paying to that? She said, $0. I go, bring the papers over. And that was it.
So you still don't know. It could be your kid.
I don't know. I've seen a picture. It doesn't look like mine.
Yeah.
There's another dude taking care of it anyway. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
It's not mine. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is the story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, where if you have kids, they are welcome all the time. And great meals, great date night place. Unbelievable for trivia on Tuesday nights, brunch on Sundays. Good place to catch a Tigers game. Just sit at the bar and enjoy an American Stout, which is my absolute favorite beer in the world. And just a great place. Look, it's a lot of character, unbelievable menu. Their chef does a sweet job. And they got great salad options, great heavier foods, comfort foods, whatever your mood is, they'll have something to your liking there at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing.
This chef does a sweet job. I love that. Matt Droulette next. The men's and women's finals of the French Open were absolutely epic, must-see TV. As someone who's over 50, the idea of going 5+ hours without using the bathroom, let alone playing world-class tennis, is astounding to me. Bonus. Sabalenka's Sour Grapes press conference was awful.
So I have Sabalenka is an emotional roller coaster. I enjoy watching her play. She would not be somebody I've gambled on her before. I would not recommend it because things can be going perfectly, and you're like, yeah, I picked this right, and then the meltdown just begins, and you're like, what the hell? And she's got all the talent in the world. When she's on, she's a great player. I'm torn on this whole thing with Sabalenka. So for those who don't know, after both on the court and then in the post-game press conference, Sabalenka, after playing Coco Gauff, whose mic didn't even work for the post-game thing on the court, sucked because Sabalenka's did, and then Coco Gauff's didn't. I hated that. How do they not fix that or stop it and give her a different mic? Anyway, but Sabalenka basically said, I played like absolute shit. She was better than me on this day, but this is the worst tennis I played in months. It didn't come across as gracious, right? As gracious in defeat. But you also don't want to stop people from being honest anymore. And if that's the way she feels, you don't have to like her, but we don't have to shun her either because she is an emotional player, and that's how she felt. And she did issue a statement today about how well Coco Gauff played and how much she deserved it. And I think on the court she was better at saying that as well. She's not great.
Do they have to do it on the court? Like they do that with golf, and there was problems with Morikawa not wanting to do interviews post rounds, but like to just give them an hour to reflect, maybe go back there, and
it's
then
during the ceremony. It's like the
NBA,
they
those ceremonies are wild.
They do it in the NBA finals too.
But I'm saying I agree with you to let them just speak off the top of their heads. But I think that's what happens when you're sitting there through a 20-minute ceremony where you finish second. You're obviously going to be a little pissed off.
Well, she doubled down and made it worse at her press conference. So I don't know if this was that. She's an entertaining player, and it was a good final. So anyway.
David Jackson next. J Batt needs to be told in no uncertain terms, despite how certain LSJ columnists wax poetic about CMU's long, close history with MSU, that without a full, meaningful institutional apology and getting our pound of flesh, Batt simply must cancel those 2 scheduled football games. At this point, I am a one-issue voter on this subject. And bonus, in response to Couch raving about the French Open, I say that until an American again wins a men's Grand Slam event and that champion has the personality to be a media star, tennis will remain a niche sport in the U.S. The male players unknown to the public here.
All right, so a couple things. One to the CMU point. I'll be curious if how much attention Batt gives this and what comes out of, like, I think what's happening with Michigan with the NCAA hearings right now. I think CMU's story will be partly tied to that, and I wonder if their timeline for learning any punishment or anything will be similar before the season starts. Certainly, again, question worth asking, and you're not alone. We're going to get to more takes on this. You're not alone in feeling that way, and so it'll be interesting to see a Batt sort of, because you're right. In some ways, J Batt could become beloved pretty quickly if he speaks strongly on this right away.
What a first move that would be.
I don't know.
Blow CMU off the map.
I don't know that everybody would feel the same way, but it would for some. Some would be all on board. To the second part on the French Open, I think the last era of tennis, which was maybe the greatest era of men's tennis, when you had Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal in their primes together. None of them from America, but everybody's still enjoying it and accepting it. And people have gotten used to that. And people you look in the NBA, and more of the top players aren't American, and people accept them as big stars. In tennis especially, I think everybody knows who Carlos Alcaraz is. Everybody now probably knows who Sinner is. I think, it would
everybody?
Large sports fans do. I think largely the more it would be great if somebody like Ben Shelton could elevate his game, and I think he's the one. Because a lot of the other young players like Fonseca and stuff like that who are like 18 are not American, but I think like a guy like Shelton, who certainly has the game in terms of the power and it's consistency with him. But he's you look at Tommy Paul, for example, he's never going to be an elite player. He's sort of maxed out where he is in terms of just physical gifts. So it would help, but I don't think it's necessary. I think as long as you have guys that are engaging, that people, I think Carlos Alcaraz is somebody I think Americans love to watch. Spike Lee went over to watch Coco Gauff and Carlos Alcaraz. I don't know that you 100% need it. What you need is rivalries, and you need I just don't know if it's. I used to think this. I used to agree with you, but I think that Djokovic,
why is it a big deal if Spike Lee went to go watch it? He's an old
American.
retired dude. Yeah, but I mean, like he loved.
Dustin Hoffman was there, another old retired. Ernie Johnson was there.
Right.
But when you think about Djokovic and Rafa and Federer, those to me that was an era that showed that tennis doesn't need the Americans to be popular in this country to a degree.
But it would help. Scotty Green's El Camino, number 1, the French Open final was one of the best matches of all time because of the incredible shot making. Even the last shot was amazing. Make fun of Couch all you want, but if you don't enjoy tennis at its highest level, then that's on you.
This is not my burner.
Who's making fun of you about your tennis stuff? 2, I know we have plenty of material, but I want a new story from one of you that we can reference. Maybe a Couch story that he can't be trusted with kids. A Jason story about petty crimes or fathering children, maybe?
Oh, we just had one of those again.
I just told restory. Yeah. Rehash it. 3, as time goes on, I'm getting more and more pissed about CMU. Michigan is Michigan, and all of their non-degree holding idiots' rhetoric becomes background noise. I want the death penalty now for CMU. Go full SMU on them.
Boy, yeah, J Batt could, if he wants to meet some of the fan base where it is, this would be the way.
Way to set it off. J Batt, he can do it.
I'm trying to think of a new story where I can't be trusted around children. I mean, I'm pretty good with children, but I've only coached one team that wasn't with my kids, so that's really the only example of a situation where I understand it.
I feel like one is enough.
And the fact that I never got asked back hurts just a little bit.
Well, they thought you probably moved on
to other kids.
No, well, geez, no. I mean, just figured,
right.
It was one and done. You got your fill of it, and
right.
Did you ask? You might have put it out there.
A lot of these stories we're telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company, have to come organically. And that's the hardest thing is to be, because I didn't even remember.
Tell me a story.
I didn't even remember the other day that I ran out of gas until we got out of the studio.
That's true.
And that would have been a better story in the moment right after. Instead, we waited.
So what
days.
we're telling you is that we're going to go out into the parking area here, and we're going to tell 2 great stories, and we're going to look at each other, and we'll be like, remember that for Wednesday.
Yeah, 100%.
Nick Gandy next. Roland Garros final has saved men's tennis. Finally, the new Gen guys deliver the drama, intensity, and world-class final we haven't seen since the prime Big 3. Been starving for it for years. Also, shout out Coco Gauff.
I love it. I love that there are 2 guys in their early 20s that look like they're going to be at the top of their game, and that's the level you have to reach. Like those 2 are above everybody else, and Djokovic sort of hanging on at the end of his career, and he could still for a set or 2 be at that level. But yeah, I mean that's what you have to get to, and so there's at least that, and that sort of sets the bar at a pretty high place, and it's awesome.
Carl next. The next Couch in the Rube remote should be live from Sparrow Hospital on Latz's bedside.
And I ain't afraid to show it, show it, show it, show it. I'm sexy and I know it.
Yeah.
Play this. Come on.
Come on. Come on. I'm sexy and I know it.
It's the best part,
Come on.
Graham.
Get up. Get into it, guys. Come on.
Come on now.
Check it out. It's my favorite part.
Me too.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yeah. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yeah. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
All right. Get well soon, Latz. 10th surgery.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's not good.
It's crazy. Poor guy. Original Dark D'Antonio next. How enthralling it would be to go back to toddler times and be able to experience your first steps, or eating candy, or seeing yourself in the mirror for the first time. But be able to appreciate that new excitement as an adult.
Original Dark D'Antonio is on a little bit of bake take here. Yeah.
Why's that got to be baked?
Pure options. Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
Sounds pretty baked.
It does sound big.
Because I don't know why I would want like my first steps. I don't know.
I don't know, but the excitement of it is what he's bringing up. How often do we get as excited in life as you would when you first took a step? You know.
But do you get to see everything like that's happening around you, too, or is it just your first steps?
Just you. It's just all the stuff that you went through, like the first taste of candy when it's like, oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever had in my life. You know, or you know.
Yeah, but I could just do that when I get stoned, and it's like I'm eating candy for the first time. Like I have something, I'm like, oh my God, is this a blow pop? This is amazing.
That's fair. That is. But I will say this is the certainly the most entertaining take we've had, presented by our friends at Xfinity Comcast with great plans. Go to Xfinity.com or Xfinity.com/mobile if you want to get a better deal on your mobile phone situation. I'm telling you, if you know, I bring it up before, but. I've looked at this, and only reason I don't have it, because it is a better deal than almost anybody I know, is we have a family plan, which my mother's paying for a lot of stuff, so I don't mess with it.
For your burner phone,
yeah. But this would be my first move, and I know I have friends who have done it and have saved a lot of money by switching to Xfinity Mobile.
Travis Maynard, Rage Take. If you're gonna take the time to review clothing purchases online, please God, list your weight, height, and the size you bought. Don't just say true to size or fits great. You're helping no one. It should be a requirement on every form. Muskox, be the innovator.
Yeah, I can understand I love that this is a very specific frustration that's just happened to Travis.
Because Couch would lie about his height and weight.
6'4", 210.
Svelte. Treadmill. I love people that have those little things. I love those. Like, I would never think of a fucking review like that to get all pissed off. I love those. Hondo Carpenter of Southern Maine next. The countdown is on for MSU fans to be devastated when Michigan's football program is not erased from history. And bonus, the NCAA has shown to be feckless, and they won't punish one of their favored brands.
I think the punishment will be more than a pinprick, and I think it probably won't be full satisfaction for rival fan bases, but I think it'll be something that pisses off Michigan fans. I do. I would be surprised if it's not something that's hefty enough to really to put a scarlet A on their chest a little bit.
Moneybag, we don't want to punish current players for past crimes, is a weak excuse. At this point, a lot of those players choose Michigan knowing Michigan was under investigation for multiple cheating scandals. It's also never been easier to transfer elsewhere and get paid a lot to do it. And from Matty B. The NCAA should still punish schools, even if that's not the current players or coaches who did it. It's 2025. Those players can leave with the portal if they don't like the sanctions. Michigan should have to field a roster of players willing to be under those penalties.
It's a fair point in the idea that certainly now the ability for a player to move is easier. The argument against this would be if the NCAA's inability to do things in a timely fashion, if it's late August when this comes down and it's going to affect this season, that didn't give that current player who may not have been involved any time to react to it, right? So maybe if you're going to, and almost be more hurtful because it would impact recruiting to do it for a year later. So maybe it's the 2026 season would be the sanction, that in that way you're giving players a chance if they want to move on, or if they understand the terms. I think that would be a more fair way of doing it.
DMB next, number 1. Wojo and the Blue Curtain was a hot take there, Couch. That guy would drink Harbaugh's bathwater. Please bring him on the show so we can settle this once and for all. And 2, the Michigan media mafia has gotten away with it all for years, until Connor Stallions got greedy and wore a Halloween costume in EL for CMU. Even then, the reporting on it locally is comical. You could have been the hero we needed, Couch. Repent.
I did have the story. I mean, it wasn't, it took a while.
Welcome to the blue wall.
In not in defense of myself, because
defend yourself, man.
No, putting
Take
down myself. The other way around.
Oh.
What I did not reckon. I remember doing this show for a while, and we get these takes or questions about it, and when somebody, and I assumed somebody else was working on this shit, and I just assumed it was going to be done, and I also didn't think of it as big a deal as everybody else did. And I realized quickly that I was wrong on that. Well, I didn't realize it quickly, but realized that I was wrong on that based on just the intensity of our listener.
That's the motto for this podcast. We thought someone else was going to do it.
Well, and then, but then, you start realizing nobody's doing shit on this, and so I started to work on it, and we got at least some of it. And there are parts to it that I was unable to report because the sourcing was what it was, and we have standards that others don't.
Max, number one, if the NCAA doesn't come down hard on Michigan, no one should ever cooperate or self-report again. Michigan is the definition of lack of institutional control. Look it up. They seem to think that they are above the rules. And two, our new AD and president could engender a lot of goodwill coming out strong on the CMU situation. Threaten to never play them again in any sport. Do not accept transfers or enroll graduate students from CMU until they admit to their role in Signgate. They need us more than we need them. And three, Eli Savit is running for attorney general. Does he have any self-awareness? Half of the state will vote against him on principle.
I am more curious about the Eli Savit election than how the vote looks than any other race in a long time, because it is interesting. This is a guy who waded into a fierce rivalry and now is running for office, and in theory would, there are a lot of people who usually would vote for him that will just have no interest in it. But then there are others who may like him because he was a University of Michigan guy who normally wouldn't vote for him. So I'm very curious to see what the actual vote looks like for him as well.
John Naughty, number one, Harbaugh's book will be called Boogers and Nothing Burgers. 2, ticket broker Connor Stallion's book will be called Low Level, right on their 50 staffer. 3, Sharon Banfield Moore's book will be called Living My Middle Name.
The Banfield, his middle name, apparently. Well done. What I found interesting the other day was that Tom Mars, Harbaugh's attorney, was like, Harbaugh's not even aware this is going on. He just sort of, the dismissive nature of Tom Mars is interesting, because Tom Mars is obviously a smart guy who represents lots of other people, but he has to know at some point that because he would never weigh in anything negatively against Michigan, that he has zero credibility on this stuff, because he's so pro Harbaugh. And Harbaugh is probably playing with his chickens out in San Diego, doesn't know what's going on. This is like a nothing thing. Like, it's just such a, I don't get
What's
it.
he supposed to say, though?
Well, the
Stick to the script, man.
Have an ounce of criticism for, if you represent a client, it's fine, but for the institution you love once in a while, and it gives you a little bit of credibility the other way.
Spartan Center next. Number one, enjoyed watching the French Open with quality tennis displayed. Alcaraz, 22 years old, and Sinner, 23, will provide many epic battles the next 15 years and will go down as all-time greats. And 2, who is going to be the high-volume three-point shooter on MSU men's team? And 3, thoughts on the J Batt hire.
From the outside, the Batt hire seems like a really good one. And everybody, there was a lot of talk of like this is a home run hire and all that stuff. Time will tell that, but I do think in terms of his pedigree, his upbringing in athletics, that he fits what MSU needs, and it was somebody that Kevin Guskowitz very early on identified and went after, and they're paying to get. So there are a lot of positives on the front end and winning the press conference in terms of potential. The question will be what he can deliver for MSU. High-volume three-point shooter on next year's MSU team. I do think Caleb Glenn, and like he's the one I'm watching because he went from a guy who was like a, what do you go, 1 for 9 at Louisville, 2 for, he didn't shoot many as a freshman, even though he played a fair bit, to a guy who was a 40% shooter at FAU. I'm curious to see what he is moving forward. I also think Kurt Tang is going to be a decently high-volume three-point shooter for MSU next year.
He's a bull in a china closet.
Ken Chu, the Oilers are in trouble after giving up the home ice advantage to Florida. Can't do that.
Yeah, I want the Oilers doing this so badly. I mean, not just because Conor McGregor and all that stuff. Not Conor McGregor.
McDavid?
McGregor. Yeah. That was a bad slip. But just because, like, I want to see him win it, and I just hate the idea that Florida Panthers without a fan base would get to enjoy it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Anti-Florida guy, yeah. Alex Mayer, number one, with the hiring of J Batt, can we confidently say that the bushes have been pounded? And 2, if cuts need to be made, baseball and softball will be the first to be looked at.
Well, they probably should be. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the cuts would be. You have to look at the cost of sports and where you want to compete, and then what your expectations should be for them and what you want to be. Do you want to be able to offer those to in-state talented kids and understand that you're only willing to spend to a certain point? to compete, and there are other challenges. That's okay, but you just have to decide what you want to be, and then be okay with that and the expectations. And there was a lot of that under Mark Hollis. There was a year when MSU softball went 0-20, and a lot of people wanted Jackie Joseph to be let go. And Hollis basically said to his staff, "What have we done here to help that program?" And nobody really raised their hand at that point. And so it was like, all right, then we got to, you got to expect more, but we got to expect more of ourselves. It just wasn't a priority, in other words. So that's what do you? I think things are. If you don't want something to be a priority because you can't afford it or whatever, but you want to be able to offer it, that's okay. I just think people need to understand that.
Sinner's Dog 97. The MSU D-line is held together with paper clips and gum. I'd be surprised if that defense finished anywhere inside the top 75 without being able to generate pressure on any opponent with a pulse. What a miserable failure it is that Smith didn't bolster that unit more in the portal.
It's the portal, I think. It's the position group that I think people are most concerned about, at least being able to generate. Maybe they'll be okay against the run, but generate a pass rush. And so that's, yeah. Well, I mean, they must be aware of that, and they must think they're going to be better than other people do. But we'll see.
Couch on fire. Cubs 1 run in the 2 Tiger wins is the secret to postseason success. That uppercut swing of Green is so strikeout prone, but also how he generates any power. And baked, no matter what you think of the rating services, MSU can't recruit any 4 or 5 stars. Not a good sign.
Let's see what happens if they win, and if it looks different, and if there's some momentum, and if they're able to develop some stars and some guys get drafted out. I mean, like the big thing to me also is you have to be able to, and this goes back to an earlier take about the idea of, I think it was John Johnson, the idea that this just becomes a farm system. One of the real big things moving forward is not just the guys you can recruit, it's retention. You have to be able to afford player retention. If you want to be a developmental program, the first and foremost thing you have to be able to do is the guys you do get that turn out to be gems, you have to be able to afford to keep them. And the big-time recruits you do get, you have to be able to afford to keep them. And that is something that needs to be like, that is the baseline, right? And you make sure you pay for guys who are in your program who have success. And I think all that is, that's important.
Spartan 231, now that the urinal is over, can you tell us which big-name player MSU basketball was in contact with that you hinted at but couldn't share?
At one point, I think the comment we're referring to was I know they were in talks with R.J. Lewis from St. John's, who I think stayed in the NBA draft. But at one point, they were, I think they thought they were the front runners for him, or at least had a good shot there, and was a guy who was a proven scorer and a flawed player to some degree, but obviously a guy who can score and was the top player on a team that was also a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament last year.
Parker Weiss next. Been thinking of ideas for summer sporting events to fill the gaps until football season. PGA versus Live, 4 to 5 day Ryder Cup style tournament. If you hate this take, it means you just hate golf. I want to hear some ideas from Couch's weird brain. Sports in general, not just golf.
Yeah, I mean, PGA versus Live, they're never going to do that, though. Because the PGA, if you lose that, the PGA, there's no value in it for the PGA, right? The PGA can only lose there, I think. To me, the big thing,
these guys might start leaving Live soon anyway, so
yeah,
might not even be a worry. Their contracts are coming up for the Live, right?
Yeah, I haven't been paying any attention to Live. That's part of the thing. The Live is off. There are lots of sports I think need to look better at, like MLS soccer, for example. Their season needs to start like the Saturday between the NFC and AFC championships and the Super Bowl, and then start there and really try to be more of a focal point during the summer. I think the NBA season could start later and end later and go through July, and we would have that too, and it doesn't go up against football. I think there are lots of ways with the sports we have to really fill that gap and have more offered to us in the middle months, especially now that streaming exists, and it's just not the same way it used to be in terms of, I think, viewership habits. That it used to be that July was like a stay away from this. I remember when the NBA had their bubble year where they had to play in July, and people said, you don't want to naturally do that. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they revisit some things as they try and get further away from the NFL.
Scott, next. Number 1, Carlos Alcaraz is the right-handed version of Rafa Nadal. 2, I'm not a Tottenham Hotspurs fan. If I was, though, it would be tough to continue being a fan when your ownership makes questionable decisions at the managerial position.
Well, they got rid of Ange Postecoglou. I can't pronounce his last name. Anyway, they got rid of Ange.
Big Ange. And
a lot of look. I mean, they were 17th in the table last year in the standings. So the thing is, if you are, they were also aware that they weren't going to do much in the standings, and so they were focused entirely on the Europa League for a long time. I would have made the same move though. I would have made a move. I don't think you were going to get anywhere with him beyond winning, a Europa League that no longer features the Champions League teams that come down. I just don't think it was as big an accomplishment as some people think it was. I would have got rid of him. I think Tottenham should never be that low in the table, and I don't think his style and his lack of willingness to adjust in certain ways works over the course of a season. I think he's pretty good in cups and other things because of how they play. But yeah, I would have done the same thing. You awake?
Hey, man. Jake Hawkins next. Number 1, great series win by the Tigers over the Cubs this past weekend, taking 2 of 3. Me, my mom, and youngest sister went to the game Friday night when Skubal was on the mound. First Tiger games I've been to in 6 years. Still think the Tigers need to trade for a hitter and reliever. And 2, I wonder if Jason Batt is going by J Batt to be cool and hip with MSU students, alumni, faculty, fans, coaches, donors, and athletes. He thinks the new rule about revenue sharing is a good thing for MSU, and having a good football program is key to success. Make it happen. 3, so TNT Sports is reduced to NHL, tennis, NASCAR, some MLB, and college football coverage after they lost the NBA. I think they should have put a bid in to cover SEC football and men's basketball. The SEC on TNT is pretty catchy and sounds right.
They did luck out in their first French Open. Was just, I mean, they were with them all the way through, although HBO Max had all the matches as well. But that was a really good deal for TNT because they got that match, and people start to associate them with tennis much easier when you get that. In terms of J Batt and what he said, every AD right now is going to say that revenue sharing is a good thing. Everybody's going to say that football is key to success. There was nothing groundbreaking there. It just wasn't. But
football is a priority.
Yeah. That said, making football when it is your priority successful is now the challenge. And look, there's nothing. Everything looks like a good hire. But again, like you said, make it happen.
Hans Jurgent, finally here. Number 1, the Tigers need to trade for a bat. Trade for one right now. 2, MLB, can we do less day games on the weekends in the Midwest? There are so few nice summer days here, and we don't need to spend them in the house watching your sorry-ass games. 3, the Mariners have a player named Master Booney. Ha-ha. Bonus. Yes, I heavily bet on baseball this weekend. Double bonus. Any sports columnist who gets a sports prediction wrong should be bobbatized.
Oh, that's like the guy who got his penis cut off, right? Oh, yeah, it's not.
Who?
It was somebody Bobbitt, right?
John Wayne?
John Wayne Bobbitt, right? Sorry, really good pianist. We'll end the show with that. Appreciate all of you. We really do. And appreciate the kind words, the criticisms, all of it, just for taking part in producing our show after show after show. We appreciate Xfinity and Comcast. Go to Xfinity.com and Xfinity.com/mobile for great phone offers and cable offers and internet offers. And if bundle cable and internet, it's always a better deal. They've got some really good stuff for some stuff as well for non-contract and other stuff that's really good for the first couple of years. Some really good offerings there at Xfinity.com. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company. Great place for a date night for any occasion. Our good friends at Midtown Brewing Company. We'll be back Wednesday, and Jason will be ready with his U.S. Open bets, which apparently is this week. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.